Welcome to Stay Sparked. On this show, we explore how to stay inspired in the modern world through the most profound lessons from Burning Man, relationships, entrepreneurship, psychedelics, spirituality, travel, and more. On today's Stay Sparked, we are talking about how to face all of the things that come along with depression, anxiety, and being a friend to people who are going through hard times.
How do we attend to our friends and be the best friend and presence for them? And also how to pull ourselves out of these ruts and spirals that we sometimes find ourselves in.
How do we walk that delicate line of being there for somebody and not pushing them farther into the dark place that they are? So we hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to Stay Sparked. I'm HALCYON.
I'm Betsy.
And I am JANUS.
I am the host of the Hug Nation YouTube channel.
And I am the founder of the Power Affirmation Project, teaching life skills for sustainable happiness here in Southern California and worldwide virtually.
And I am the CEO and founder of NuWorld Nutritionals, which is a supplement company, nutritional supplement company, offering products to help improve one's state of mind.
And we like to start each of our broadcasts with some gratitude. So, Betsy, what are you grateful for?
I am so grateful today for hugs. I got to see many friends this weekend, and this particular group of friends loves hugs. And so I got filled up on real beautiful heart-to-heart hugs that were just so warming to my soul and to my body and to my heart. So today, grateful for hugs.
Lovely. What about you, Janus?
I've very similar gratitude as I was at this same gathering. And yeah, I got a lot of hugs, and these gatherings don't always provide an opportunity to really get a deep drop in with some friends. But this one did, like, a lot. And I was actually able to really drop in with the people who I've only really known peripherally for like years, frankly. It's easy to get into a routine where you see a lot of people, like, and it's like, hey, hello, how you doing? And then that's it. But I got a chance to really connect with some people that I've been wanting to connect with for a while, and I almost feel like I covered all my bases with the friends that were in attendance that I really wanted to connect with. So I've got a lot of gratitude for that, for just solidifying connections and friendships. It felt really good to wake up this morning in that space.
Okay. I'm going to give gratitude for the same thing. I was at the same gathering, but what I'm grateful for is that those gatherings have ripples, and that this connection right now, this conversation we're having right now, is a direct effect of us having, the three of us, connecting at a similar gathering in the past, when we just realized how nourishing it was to be connecting and having these conversations, and how much we wanted to, quite honestly, share them. So I'm grateful for the gathering this weekend and the reminder of how much wisdom and compassion there are coming from the people that I love and in my life, and how blessed we are to be able to record it and share it with the world.
Indeed.
Love that. Yes, this is where Stay Sparked came from, because the three of us were having these amazing conversations at these gatherings. And one day Halcyon said, we should start recording these conversations. And so here we are, getting to share our sparks of inspiration with you guys out there. So thanks for listening.
Yeah. And today we wanted to talk about how to hold space and be a good friend when someone is going through struggles, when they're experiencing depression and having a tough time. And it can be very difficult to know what to do and know how to be there for people in comforting ways. So I first wanted to check with you two and see if depression is something that you have identified as experiencing, or being a depressed person at any point in your life. What about you, Betsy?
I first time experienced depression through witnessing my dad. So my dad was clinically depressed when I was a teenager. And so I got to witness what it looked like. Back then, it was not so commonly referred to as clinical depression. He wasn't diagnosed, but he essentially was. And so I had an opportunity to learn about it then, and it was really challenging to be around it, because I didn't know what to do, what to say, how to be. And so I kind of avoided him in that because I just wanted to give him space. And looking back, I wish I would have known what to do when living with somebody who is going through such a hard time. Personally, in my own experience, I've had small bouts of depression, um, usually very short-lived, not to the depths of what my dad experienced or what I know many people have experienced, thankfully. I have gotten to a place in my life where I practice things that cultivate a sense of joy and upliftment and awareness of myself. And so if I know that I have something going on that could kind of draw me into a downward spiral, I know at this stage of my life what to do and how to soothe myself and move through challenging feelings such as depression. So thankfully, I'm in a really good space, and that's been my relationship personally with depression.
I hope we get a chance to talk about some of those things and maybe some of the appropriate ways to share those a little bit later. But Janus, curious if you have any experience with depression.
Yes. I would say I've definitely been around people experiencing that. I've been in relationship with people experiencing that and have had my own moments of that. Thankfully, like Betsy, these bouts of my own experiences of depression have been pretty short-lived. I've been able to cultivate practices to kind of get me out of those ruts, so to speak, and those spirals. I've been able to kind of catch myself doing getting into those places, and I've been able to successfully, to varying degrees, pull myself out in relatively short time. So, and have since cultivated, practices that kind of keep me, keep some equilibrium in my life, so I don't really have to experience that, thankfully, so much these days. And yeah, been around people and been in relationship with people experiencing that, and so have had some experience and quickly learned that some things, there's ways to support and be a friend to someone that is experiencing that, or someone who's reaching out, and while also realizing that we need to, for want of a better term, to kind of stay in our lane with that. And we could get into that later as far as like how to show up for our friends.
And I think it's different for different people, and so it's a tread lightly to find that path. But first of all, I'll share that I was medicated for anxiety and depression for over 10 years. Have been off pharmaceuticals for over 10 years, but found medication and pharmaceuticals to be a very important and helpful part of my journey. And so while I am very grateful that it is not a part of my current day-to-day life, it is also something that I do not dismiss or consider to be any sort of weakness or ineffective or secondary way to deal with what I believe to be a very legitimate chemical challenge that many of us have. I currently, when I experience depression, I try to label it as a funk, because part of my journey with depression and through it was recognizing that it was a temporary chapter and it was a temporary experience, even if I didn't feel that way. And that maybe I'll start with that as in my personal experience, one of the things that helped me helped me to get to a different relationship with that part of myself, was recognizing that when you're in a place of depression, and I'll say this is me, but often when I talk to people, it is not something you are experiencing. It is not something where you feel like you're having thoughts like, oh, I feel high, I feel dizzy. No, the world sucks and you are terrible at everything, which is a very different thing than feeling like something is happening to you, which is sometimes when you see a friend in that place, you're like, oh, my friend something is happening to them. But when you're in it, it doesn't feel that way at all. And so if someone tries to convince you or tell you that something is happening, it feels so insulting to be told what you're experiencing is temporary, or, if you do these things, it'll go away, because when you're there, it's not something that goes away. It's the way the world is. And so this isn't about how to fix our depression, but I'll say that I think is a helpful way to go into maybe what are how can we relate to somebody that is in a tough time? So do you want to maybe start us with that, Betsy?
Sure. Yeah, I have had many friends that have been in it, and I really cherish creating a sacred space for the people that I love to be authentic in how they're feeling. And what I've noticed is that the more that there is a loving, accepting place for them to come to, the more easeful it is to transcend and to grow through it. And it's taken some time to be able to create that dialogue, to let my friends know that if they're ever in a dark place, that they can reach out to me from that place and not feel like if they're reaching out, it's only to be joy and bring light. Because I find that that's been one of the things is that when going through something like that, there's a tendency to isolate and kind of feel fearful for reaching out, even though it's like we really need each other in those moments. Those are the moments when a loving friend can just help, just to be there. So I'll give an example. I had this relationship with a friend of mine who she was battling very deep depression and brain inflammation, and she went off her antidepressants too rapidly, and it was really difficult for her. And one of the things that I got to be for her is that she would call me and she would say, "Hey, Betsy, can you just remind me of who I am?" Because
Hmm.
she knew that I saw her in her fullness and all of the many facets of who she is. And I loved that she had the courage to just ask me that question. Can you just remind me of who I am? Because in those moments of darkness, she couldn't see. She was in a cloud. And so I got to just say, "Hey, I see you. I know that you are a beautiful dancer and lover of the earth, and I know you to be an amazing friend who loves all the people in your life." And those simple things, like when I would talk to her and share those things, she would just soften and her breath would deepen, and we would just like gaze into each other's eyes, sometimes in a video chat. And so those are some simple things that I have really learned to just share with my friends. If there's a moment where it's challenging, that it's okay to reach out and ask for some connection and just ask simply, "Can you just remind me who I am?" Right? My personal experience with the small moments of going into depressions, that's kind of what it has felt like. I can't remember who I am. Like, where did I go? And it just feels like this density around me. And I know that I have tools to get out of it, but I can't see them. I can't reach for them. There's this weight on me. And so having people in my life is an essential part of being able to move through these kind of challenges.
It is so beautiful, and I think that you hit on something important too. Is that she asks you for this, and before that, you have to set the understanding that it's something that you can give to her. So I think it's a very big difference saying, if you would like me to share with you the way I see you or the who you are, and then let that person ask when they need it, is very different than when someone is telling you, "I suck, I never do anything." And especially if they're saying, "I always and never." If someone is saying, "I always do this, I never do this," it's like, okay, you are in it. But if someone is giving you their depressed definition of who they are, and you try to argue with them, my experience is, if you tell me, "No, you do great, everyone love you, do this, you're so good," all I want to do is dig in and argue for why I suck. And in doing so, I build up my reasoning. I'm by the end of our conversation, I feel way worse about myself because I have now forced myself to think of reasons why I'm even worse. So it's a really delicate thing of making the support available and not pushing it when someone has already got their wall up too tight.
Hmm. Hmm. And that is an important distinction. It's because we need to realize that we can be friends to people, we can be friends to our friends, and we can be a source of support. And it's really easy to say the wrong thing, quote unquote, to the friends who more often than not just need to be heard. They're not necessarily looking for advice or wisdom. Sometimes they're like, remind me of who I am, and we can be there for that if it's a specific request. But yes, like Halcyon saying, to like argue against their position, it spurs them into a direction that is decidedly unhelpful. So it's important. And also I want to touch on the the way to ask for these things as well, is if we're the ones who are feeling the bout of depression or anxiety or whatever it is, we're not feeling our best. When we're checking in with a friend, if we can remember to ask if they have the bandwidth, if they have the energy, if they have the space for us to have this conversation, because a lot of times people reach out to us, or we reach out to people, and they're not in that space for that. They're busy. They're just not mentally in that space to drop in with us. And a lot of times, like, we can call and be like, well, we start in with something, and then there's like, they're unequipped in that moment. I think it's important during the ask to ask, like, hey, do you have a few minutes to drop in with me and kind of remind me who I am, or how we can have this discussion, or can I vent about this thing? And if we're in that space, then fantastic. And if not, we can be like, hey, not right now, but can I call you in an hour? Can I call you tonight? Whatever. That is, even that, like, people knowing that they have a resource, even if you can't happen in that moment, can be really effective, positively effective for them, knowing that they have people out there. And also going back to the idea that when people reach out, they just want to be heard. So sometimes they just want to vent about, oh, I'm feeling this way, and life sucks and my world is falling apart, so on and so forth. And you can, instead of trying to convince them that their world is not falling apart, something along the lines like, I hear you. That sounds terrible. I agree. So what avenues do you have? Like, what's good? So what's good in your life? Certainly everything can't be terrible. Like, what's a good thing in your life? And just kind of have the dialogue. And instead of trying to convince them, you simply keep asking questions and kind of get them back to, and these are not skills that you need to be like a skilled therapist to acquire. You're just being a friend, and friends listen. Friends witness. Friends are just there. It's just a presence. You're offering presence to the world. So we can all do that without trying to kind of overstep what we're capable of doing.
Yeah, I think that point in the conversation where you go from listen to ask is very delicate. There's a saying that unsolicited advice is criticism, and I think it's really important to recognize that most of the time, if somebody is telling you something that they're struggling with, or is hurting them, or they're complaining about, they want just to be heard. And so if you are going to transition the conversation into fixing it, or wanting to offer advice, you really need to get consent for that. And I think that even making sure you leave enough silence for someone to finish speaking or continue speaking, really watching what is my role in this. And that can be your challenge as a listener, because so many of us have this wiring. We want to help the people we love. And you might pop into your head, oh, I had this experience that is so similar. Let me just tell them this because it's going to help. Not if they don't want to hear it. If they don't, it's just going to make them feel guilty that they have not been able to take that same action or do that same thing. And now you've given them one more reason why they suck. So it's really delicate.
Yeah. Yes. We're talking about the art of listening once again. And last week our Stay Sparked was about the socializing. And this is it, right? How do we learn how to effectively listen and observe somebody in a state without trying to fix? I know personally, I have shared moments where I'm stressed about something, and my friend just listens. And then I come to my own realization about whatever it was that I was stressing about just from them listening. And the term prosody, right? The gentle nodding, the just eye contact, the presence from somebody who cares really has an impact. and just being from a place of love without trying to fix is so powerful. And also like letting someone know that we're here. So I recently had a friend who lost her father, and I know she's going through it and she's going internal and she's in her process. And so I decided to just send her a quick little message that said, "Hey, I'm thinking of you. I love you so much. I'm right here, just sending you beams of love and light as you get through this grieving process." And she replied back and she said, "Your voice, just hearing your voice just felt like a really warm hug. Thank you for letting me know that you're holding me from a distance." It's really so powerful, especially because one of the things I've noticed, especially over the last couple of years with the pandemic and just a lot of challenges that we've all gone through, is there can be a tendency for people to just withdraw fully, and then you just don't see them for a month, a couple months, maybe a year, and then maybe they're gone. There's people that have committed suicide. The suicide rate has gone up over the last few years. And so to track and check in with these people, even a little memo saying, "Hey, just thinking about you, sending you love." And that can really make a positive difference in someone's life who may be just going inward and going into those dark places. And then, what I've heard also is that when you go into those dark places of isolation, and you start thinking, well, nobody really cares about me. Nobody ever reaches out to me. This is so hard. I have to do it all by myself, right? And those little check-ins can make somebody shift even just a little bit, right? And so I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, being a good friend simply by reaching out and saying, "Hey, I'm thinking of you. I love you."
I want to highlight the wisdom of the words that you used. Specifically, "I'm thinking about you," because there's no ask with that. When you say, "How are you doing?" You're kind of putting an obligation on that person to tell you something. Or this is, whether it's depression, grief, people going through a health issue, some people, it can feel like a real burden to have a lot of people reaching out and asking how you're doing. And it feels like just one more thing that I don't have energy for. But just a, "How you doing?" Or even I send people hugs. I write paren, hug, and paren, like, or a heart, because what I'm really saying is I'm thinking about you. When someone is going through something really tough, there are no words that are going to fix it. You're not wise enough. It's just not, you just don't, that's not the energy that someone really needs. Now, if you're in conversation or if you're in someone's presence, you might find, the flow and your feeling towards them, you might be able to give words that really mean something. But I think people often struggle, especially when someone shares a loss. What do I write in the card? I would say, don't worry about it. What matters is they know that you're thinking about them. And if you can do it so in a way that doesn't have add to their burden, that's way better than asking a lot. Oh, and also as far as sometimes asking a lot is even asking, "What can I do for you?" People, it's a common thing to say, "Let me know if I can do anything." And that in of itself is saying, I need you to spend some energy and think about something and figure something out and plan it so that I can do that for you, which is way too much if people are really struggling. There's a number of things I've seen people do you can offer to bring a meal. You can also bring a meal in Tupperware and say, "Are you available to eat this with me now? Or can I just leave it for you?" You can buy people a meal delivery service, just a credit, say, "Hey, whenever you need it, don't cook, just order a meal on me." I've also talked to someone who just said, "I will never take you up on an offer, but if you show up at my door and say, 'Would you like me to sit with you?' that would mean the world to me."
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that, but it's like, because I feel like, I don't want to impose, but I think that can be done in a way where you can ask, where no is an absolutely acceptable answer. In fact, maybe even say that with the ask, "Hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Would you be up for me just sitting with you?" And absolutely okay if you say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. So true. And it goes right back to what Janus was saying around stay in your lane, be mindful, right? Because some of the things that we share, especially what you just said, Halcyon, around, "Let me know if there's anything I can do for you." I know and that my dad died. Everybody said that. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what you can do for me. It sounds like support. They're offering support, but I don't know what I need. And so recently, my own learning and implementation from that is I had a friend who lost his wife unexpectedly, which was really hard. And there was a group of people that were like, "Hey, let's get him some food." And I checked in with him, and he was like, "I can't eat right now. This is not helpful. Now my fridge is filled with all this food and it's rotting, and I have to take care of it, and I don't want food. I can barely eat." And so we checked in, and we're like, "Would massage be helpful for you?" And he said, "Yes, I would love massage." And so we created a meal train. You know what a meal train is,
Yeah,
right? Where when someone needs that support, but we did it with massages for like 2 months. We had all these different healers and body workers, and even just friends that would come over and just hold him. He needed touch. And so we created that meal train for him, the massage train for him. And it was really beautiful. He was receptive to it. He didn't ask for it. He would have never asked for that. He wouldn't say, "Hey, can everyone come over and massage me for free?"
mm,
No, we got to come to that place of recognizing that there was a need for that. And it was so beautiful. And then also something insightful that just came from talking to another friend who lost his wife. He said that after she died, a lot of people were saying, "Hey, I'm keeping you in my prayers. I'm going to pray for you." And he took that as an insult. He got angry from hearing that. For some reason, it just really didn't land for him because he needed people to come over and give him a hug, and he wasn't able to say that in those moments because, of course, we're being kind, saying, "Hey, I'm going to pray for you." But really, he needed something else. So, how can we start thinking more expansively on how to support and be more um, creative in our ways to help people that are going through things? Like you said, like, can I reach out and say, "Hey, I'd love to come over and give you a hug. Are you available for that? Would that be okay for me to stop by later today and give you a hug?"
mm.
Yeah,
A
Yeah.
which
lot
is a lot
different.
different than do you need a hug? Because the phrasing of do you need anything? My answer is I don't need anything. So I've had someone say, "Hey, do you need any help over there?" As I'm carrying something super heavy. I'm like, "Nope, I'm good." "Are you sure you don't need any help?" "I'm good." And then they said, "Is there anything I could do to make that task easier?" I was like, "Oh, yes, actually, that would, yes. Okay, I can receive that."
Yeah, it's the phrasing and the delivery that kind of makes all the difference with that. It's not like, do you need any help with that? Or it's frankly just switch it and be like, let me help you with that, or let me offer you some help with
Yeah.
that, and that is going to be much easier received than the ask is essentially. And when in the reaching out, there's also levels to that. We can send when we know somebody's like having a difficult time with whatever they're having a difficult time with. We can send a text, or we can send a voice message. It doesn't have to be a call, but it could be just a simple little voice memo being like, "Hi, thinking about you. Just wanted you to know that you're in my thoughts. I'm here for you. Please feel free to reach out anytime." Because in a text we can kind of layer our own interpretation of that, and we can kind of fill in the blanks with that, because text is really, there's a lot of aspects of communication that are missing in text. A voice message has a lot more. You can hear the nuance in somebody's voice. You can actually hear the compassion and love in somebody's voice when it's present, that you might not get in text. And then a level above that would be even a little video message, 10-second message. "Hi, hi friend, just thinking about you. Want to send you some love today, and please feel free to reach out anytime you want to connect," so on and so forth. There's
Hmm.
levels to that. And also something that is within the realm of things we can offer and things we can do for ourselves when we're experiencing something is the idea of a pattern interrupt, because it's really easy to get caught up in a cycle that gives just even not a downward spiral. Sometimes it is a downward spiral, but sometimes it's just us spinning our wheels and not really making any motion to get out of our situation, or our friends are doing the same thing. So what can we offer for that? Like Betsy's talking about, something like a massage train. very much out of the realm of somebody's experience, but that can help to kind of break the pattern and the kind of looping thoughts that somebody will get by, you know, going through a difficult experience. And we can do that for ourselves by, okay, if hiking's not something I do, how about I just walk around the block for, you know, a moment, or go on a hike, or just, we have to do something different. Even if it's something we don't normally do. And it doesn't have to be that long. It could be a 10-minute saunter on something. So we can do something different, offer something different that you know is different for your friend. And oftentimes that can be the impetus to get the ball rolling and get us moving in a direction that is more helpful, more at peace, you know, getting us to a place that's more at peace. So yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Yes, you know, mental health is a very real thing. It is a very prevalent issue. There's even Mental Health Awareness Month, which I just found out is in May.
Hmm.
And so I feel like at this day and age, it is even more important to keep taking our mental health vitamins, right? Here we are getting to share some of the things that we're passionate about. I know the three of us have been tending to our mental health, and we started off this conversation just sharing some of the ways that we stay uplifted and we stay inspired and aware of where those triggers for a downward spiral are. And so maybe we can share some of those things that we do individually to keep riding the spiral upward and to be able to stay aware, right? And so for me personally, when I notice some feelings of doubt or sadness or anxiety or just like hermiting, what I tend to do is check in with my basic needs. I know it sounds really simple, but sometimes those simple things make a really big difference. So I check in around how I've been eating. You know, have I been getting balanced diet? Have I been eating greens and real wholesome foods? Or have I been eating fried foods and a lot of white food? Have I been getting the rainbow of food in my diet? And that's usually the first place I check because, well, we become what we eat, right? Then hydration. Have I been staying hydrated? Have I been really getting enough water? Movement, but that's a huge one for my mental health. I notice if I start lagging and I start just kind of like looking down on all the situations or not having the positive outlook that I want to have, then I check in, have I been moving? Oh my gosh, I haven't danced for like a week. It's like, oh wow, okay, let me put my headphones on and let me go outside and let me dance. Because dance is my vitamin. That is like such an important thing for me. I know a lot of people maybe running, maybe yoga, maybe boxing, maybe whatever kind of movement, right? So I consider the stagnation in the body, right? If there's no movement, then there's the energy doesn't flow, the lymph doesn't flow, the blood doesn't flow, right? And movement helps bring more oxygen to the brain. It helps produce endorphins and oxytocin. So those are three basics, right? The food, the water, and the movement are some of the things that are my mental health vitamins.
Mm. Yeah, Betsy pretty much took everything I was going to say about that, and but it's worth reiterating, frankly, because what we eat I've learned that what we eat and what we put into our bodies has a profound effect on our mental state and our mental well-being. And really, when I find that I have these like low moments mentally or emotionally, whatever, I can almost every time directly correlate it to what I have been eating and just as importantly, what I have not been eating. And so really, that should be one of our first things to look at. It's like, okay, so how have I been eating? What have I been putting in my body? And not to toot my own horn, but that's how my company kind of came about, was like, okay, how do I improve my mental state, my state of mind nutritionally? And it's not always easy to eat all the things that you need. So how can I make it this easy? So taking things like lion's mane mushroom and adding some other nutrients to that has really helped to improve my state of mind, and was able to kind of share that with friends and share that with the public, and then turn into a whole business. So, but that has been quite effective. So, and connecting to that, the idea of, sometimes, sometimes pharmaceutical medications is a thing that we need, which has a, what's the word I'm looking for? Stigma attached to it. And it should have a stigma attached to it the same way that life preservers have a stigma attached to them. Which means that it shouldn't. Sometimes you need a life preserver so that you can keep your head above water, and doesn't mean you're going to be walking around with a life preserver everywhere you go, but they have their place. And it's important to recognize that if it's, if you got to call in the big guns, sometimes that's what we got to do. So kind of release any sort of attached stigma to that. And one more thing about the movement that Betsy was relating to, I had a moment I was having some challenges, just a challenging moment in life, and dancing around my house is not something I normally do. But I decided, like, okay, I need to do something. I need to move my body around. And so I just put on some music, started dancing, and quickly got into a place where I was so like, I don't feel like dancing. And I just like sat down on the couch and broke down and started crying. Everything's terrible. But what I needed to do was get it out. And so dancing was the impetus to move around. I don't feel like dancing. Everything's terrible. And just like cried it out for like 10 or 15 minutes. And at the end of that, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And so it wasn't the dancing that helped me feel better. I just needed to purge, frankly, and get those emotions, get that feeling out. Dancing was the impetus to that. And so afterwards, it's like, oh, that was just the thing I needed. I danced for maybe 30 seconds, but it allowed me to out, and then came out of the other end of that like, so it goes back to the idea of a pattern interrupt. Do something different, and that will, even if that thing is uncomfortable, it will get you to a place that is comfortable, hopefully more comfortable. So yeah, so just all the things Betsy is saying: diet, exercise, movement, shake things up. That's often just the key for what we need.
Nice. Well, I'm going to share when I don't have it in me to shake it up and dance. If I'm in a place where if I can recognize that I'm using language like always and never to explain things that aren't good, if I can give myself permission and recognition that, oh, I am in a funk right now, and allow myself that feeling, it breaks the spiraling pattern of having negative thoughts versus judging myself for having negative thoughts. Because it's a big difference to sit in darkness versus sitting in darkness and think I'm such a freaking loser because I can't get out of this, or I can't stop, I can't get off the couch, I can't dance. Like, what's wrong with me? Like that is the spiral that is so hard to get out of, that people have so much hard time pulling you out of. But if you can say it's okay. Yeah, this is the roller coaster of being a human. I like one of my favorite words now is humaning. I'm humaning right now. So this isn't me failing. This isn't me sucking. This is me doing what I do as a human. And even if I just want to watch TV, if I want to even eat ice cream, maybe even 2 pints in a night, I'm allowed to do that, because that's how I'm not going to do it every night, not forever, but until I decide that that's not what I need in this moment. And if I can just let myself have that, then the funk ends much quicker.
So true. Acceptance, right? Because when we can recognize this universal truth that everything is changing, always, everything's changing. Everything is impermanent, right? This too will pass. To be able to come to that place of acceptance for where we are in every moment, and trusting that something is going to change one day, then that does help to create that breath, right? It's such an important thing. And one of the other things I want to add on to that's a spark for me is environment. In the groups that I lead, I'm teaching people how to shift their inner and outer environments. So if we have clutter everywhere, whether that's like piles of things in our house or our device is cluttered, then our mental capacity is likely going to be cluttered. And so I know for me personally, if I have stuff everywhere or I have things to tend to, that it just feels overwhelming. And then I just feel this constriction within myself, and it's really difficult for me to feel relaxed, especially at home, right? Because home is a sanctuary. And if our home environment is all messed up, then we might feel that. Whereas feng shui, right? There's this ancient art form called feng shui that shows the impact of when we have our house in a certain order, then it impacts how we feel and the way that we move through life. And so tending to our outer environment through our home, our closets, our car, our offices, that's really powerful. And then the inner environment, right, is the food, the water. What is the media that we're taking in? What are the conversations that we're having? What's the type of music that we're listening to? It's all frequency, right? It's consuming, it's drinking in frequency of music, and media is a really big one too. Watching tons of news, or, scrolling through feeds that make us feel insecure about who we are, then of course it's going to have a ripple effect on how we move through our day. And so modifying what we're taking in, what we're drinking in. Like for me, I like to use the spa channel on XM radio.
Mhm.
Sometimes if I'm driving somewhere, if I'm feeling rushed, I'll put the soothing music on, and then it's I'm so much calmer now. Right. And so these simple practices to shift our inner and outer environment can really make big differences.
Mhm. Mhm.
Love that. Yeah. When we're talking about our diet, it's way more than just what we eat. It's all the things that we take in.
Mhm.
So if we're looking for more of you in the world, Betsy, where would we find that?
Hmm. Well, you can find me on Instagram, of course, at Betsy Who. I'm also on poweraffirmation.com. It is my company that has a journal that helps to inspire positive thinking while also reprogramming limiting beliefs. And so that is poweraffirmation.com, and you can use Sparked in the discount code for 10% off your journal. And I also lead women's groups, guiding them through the writing process and reprogramming limiting beliefs, and talking a lot about what we talked about today.
Fantastic. How about you, Janus?
You can find me or find my offering to the world at NuWorldNutritionals.com. It is a lineup of nutritional supplements, all focused on improving your focus and your mental state. Getting you improves memory, learning, memory retention, improves your mood, helps a lot of people deal with symptoms of ADHD, PTSD, even, and anxiety, depression, things like that. It's a good supplement to enable you to get yourself, back on the right track, or stay on the right track once you're there. So that's newworldnutritionals.com. You can use the code SPART for 10% off of any product.
And I will say that I have used NuWorld Nutritionals in conjunction with getting my diet in check, and really felt like I got out of a funk much quicker than I would have without them. So thank you, Yunus. And I am available at Instagram at HALCYON Pink, or the Hug Nation YouTube channel. And we can find all my links at links.hugnation.com. Betsy, would you just give us an affirmation to close us out?
Yes, absolutely. Affirmations are a way to focus our minds, so that way we can call in positive, uplifting feelings. And so we close our eyes, take a deep breath. Every day, in every way, I am becoming better and better. Every day, in every way, I am becoming stronger and stronger. Every day, in every way, I am becoming healthier and healthier. Every day, in every way, I am becoming better and better. Every day, in every way, I am becoming stronger and stronger. Every day, in every way, I am becoming healthier and healthier. Stay sparked, y'all. Thank you for listening.